you are such. So, the word for you.
Uh, Hi, so are you all code monkeys here, nerds and so on, or is there anyone from management? No one from management, great. So are you really a code monkey? Are you considered one by your bosses, management, by your colleagues, your customers maybe? Do you want to be a code monkey or do you want to be something else? How do you end up being a code monkey and how do you try avoiding becoming one? This is what we'll be talking about today. I'm Alla Babkina, I'm from Latvia. For finance, I'm a software developer, and we're hiring more software developers in Vilnius as well. So drop us a message if you're interested. And here's the outline of what I'm talking about today. First, I'll introduce myself and tell you some interesting stuff. Then the problem of code monkeys, or is it even a problem? Maybe someone thinks it's okay. The root cause of the problem. The root is huge and very tangled. The symptoms of code-monkeyism, with some examples with code that you might find fun, some solutions that I propose from my personal experience, and of course prevention measures not to get the problem in the first place. And then after a summary, I hope that we'll have at least a couple of minutes for questions and answers provided by me. So, introduction. As I said, I'm Alla. I'm a software developer now. But before that, I used to be a lawyer in a bank in the corporate finance department. So I might have a slightly more business thinking than an average IT guy or girl. But since I was a child, I used to hang out a lot with the IT crowd, go to a programming school, all kinds of maths and physics camps. And I admired the people around me. I thought they were special, very smart uber-humans of some sort. And one of those uber-humans, a very respected professor in Latvia, once said that what drives progress in the IT world is that software developers and maybe QA engineers as well are really lazy people, but in a good way. They don't like to do things repetitively. They don't like to do extra work. They like to just sit down, get their stuff together, and come up with a great solution from the first time, and never redo any work. And yeah, I was in for a huge surprise. But this myth was one of the things that got me into software development in the first place, because the work we did there was kind of depressive in one way. We had to do a lot. We had to gather all requirements from clients, stakeholders, colleagues in other departments, prepare all the documents from the legal perspective, prepare all the physical copies because secretaries were not qualified enough to do that. So bind them together, put all the visas and stamps and signatures on them, then get approvals from all other employers, get all the papers signed, and then we got a call from upstairs, and they told us to put it all in the shredder. Because suddenly the political situation in the Ukraine changed. Some of the huge clients were in a court battle, someone died or filed for bankruptcy, but it was usually justified with some major business concern. It wasn't because we screwed up. As for developers, we have now magical tools like compilers. Lawyers only get their problems at runtime and really expensive. Smart development environments, version control systems, automated tests and many frameworks, build servers that do everything for you, open source libraries so you don't have to write some pieces of code once again. And even with all of that, sometimes you manage to screw things up and behave like monkeys with a machine gun. So no use of a really good machine gun if you give it to a monkey. And what is a code monkey in reality? I agree with the definition that Wikipedia gives us. It's a reference to a job by managers usually that treats even the most experienced technical staff in such a way that trivializes their problem-solving abilities. So treat them as monkeys that can only do repetitive tasks. And you would think that it's a problem of a hostile work environment, so someone treats you unjustly, but in reality it's very much dependent on your individual behavior. Let's be honest with ourselves. So, and it's a vicious circle that starts with one of the greatest sins of software developers that I've observed: assumptions. There's something you don't know that concerns your work, but instead of just asking someone who does know or can explain it to you, you're so smart, uber-human, you just assume, and this is basically the same as guessing. And the probability is very high that you'll be wrong and that you will make a mistake depending on that assumption. But because you think you already have the right answer, you just start looking, stop looking, and your knowledge has a rotten hole in it, and you don't even know about this hole. Assumptions are a source of all evil in communication, not only in software development, in life in general. Assumptions cause your knowledge, your true knowledge, to be fragmented. And it's another defect that developers have to live with in their everyday work. And it seems like it's not enough that you have to work with many frameworks, many libraries, many new technologies that you just physically cannot learn in one instance, and you have to live with this fragmented knowledge. You also choose to make your knowledge fragmented in the business areas that you work in. And you don't notice this at once because the collective knowledge of the team that you're working in will glue this all together. So all together, maybe 5 people, you will know the whole system, but each individually will know only a small part of it. So when people come and go with all the flow of professionals, after some time, only the people who have been with the company the longest will have the answers to most of the questions. And what happens? These people become irreplaceable. Replaceable people are the bus factors of one in the company. Everyone knows what a bus factor is. So if your team leader gets run over by a bus tomorrow morning before work, what happens with work? That's the answer. And these people have huge authority, and no one usually questions what they're saying. And their words are taken for granted. And the other members of the team end up monkeys in a very well-known experiment that you may know if you read the book Drive about motivation. So scientists put 5 monkeys in a cage and bananas on a ladder. And of course, monkeys love bananas, so they ran up the ladder together. But as soon as one monkey took a banana, all the other monkeys got showered with really cold water. And after some time, of course, every time anyone tried to take a banana, the other members of the team beat him up frantically with blood and stuff. So then they replaced one monkey with a new one, and of course the first thing it did was try to take a banana and get some beating up for it by the other team members. Gradually, all the monkeys got replaced, and there were basically 5 monkeys in a cage that did not get showered with cold water even one time, and still every time one of them tried to go up the ladder and take a banana, all the others started beating them up. And after some time, no one climbed the ladder, although there was no hose, and they could take the bananas freely. And if monkeys could talk and you'd ask them, why are you not eating bananas? You're monkeys, you're supposed to love them. They would say, I don't know, that's the way things are around here. So is this familiar at your workplace? I surely hope not. Of course, management sees that something like that is happening, thinks that we have a bunch of stupid monkey nerds in our company, so we need to control them, theory X and stuff, and they introduce complex processes. And all in all, it comes to fragmented work units, many small tasks in Jira or whatever you're using to track the issues at work that don't even make sense independent of each other. And no one knows what they're working on as a whole. And fragmented work units create scattered responsibility. When you're responsible for one abstract line of code, not a feature, not some business value, then you don't understand what you're really responsible for. And you end up saying phrases like, oh, it wasn't me, I didn't break the build, I just changed the formatting of one field somewhere on the web, it was someone else. I just added a comma in the text. And after all, management has to introduce no blame policies, because it's really hard to blame someone in such a situation. You don't know who to blame. But no blame policies also have a downside to them, because a no blame policy is a no credit policy. And when you do something special, they tell you, we did it all together, so let's share this bonus, and you don't get anything for it, not even praise. And this makes people not really motivated and really passive. So they don't want to do anything extra. They don't want to do anything without being pushed. They really become theory X people. And passive people do not communicate very well. They don't know anything. They have no incentive to move processes forward. They have no incentive to help other people. So communication becomes really complicated. And we come back to where we started, assumptions. It's easier to just assume something than ask it from the passive, unmotivated people around you. And this is a vicious circle that is really hard to break. And your role is basically being one of the monkeys running around, fixing builds, completing some task that you know nothing about. And this is really not something we're striving for, because it messes up the priorities of both business and IT. You're not able to focus on code quality, on new technologies, and you're not being able to focus on the business value of what you're doing, because you don't even know the business value anymore. You're just writing abstract lines of code. And of course, everyone's unhappy. The business is losing money. Everyone's blaming everyone else, and everything's bad. And this looks really depressive, because from someone who doesn't come from IT, IT looks like astronauts, pioneers, taking another rocket ship of innovation to the orbit. But when you look closer, it's just a bunch of crazy chimpanzees pretending to test manually a mediocre Korean hatchback. And these people put on horse blinds voluntarily and say phrases like, I don't know, I'm just a software developer, I'm just a coder, I'm doing what they told me to do. But if you're behaving like a horse and putting on blinds yourself, then there will be people with initiative who will ride you like a horse, frantically, with overtimes, with pushing, until you drop dead, because they think that's the only thing that you're good for. And this is what it ends up like for the customer. And it's supposed to be an amusing picture, and it is funny in some way. But if you think about it, it's really, really, really sad. And your role in all of this is being an angry code monkey. Is this really what you were dreaming about when you became software developer? Or maybe you have another vision of this. So the thing is that abstracting away and hiding from the real business problems of the business that you're working for is not the answer, and it's a sure way to become a code monkey. And I have to say this, I have to read this, because I thought about it all the time, and it comes from the heart. I personally believe that many developers are really smart people whose analytical and logical skills stretch far beyond computer programming into the other areas of life. So you know both the business, the real life, and the system. This is something that none of the other specialists working in your company have. So now I will give some examples of my rather modest work experience of sure ways to become code monkeys, or at least to be treated like ones by your colleagues from other areas. The examples are really illustration purposes only. It's in no way an example of good or even acceptable design. It's more of an example of bad design. It's a mock application that will not even compile, because half of the code was taken out. But all the cases shown here come from real life cases, remodeled a bit, because putting real life code from work would not strictly speaking, be legal or ethical. And of course, most examples come from my previous workplace, not for finance. So what we have here is a business application that is a Broadway theater that puts on performances that spectators come to watch. And it has a system to sell tickets to those shows. There's a booking system that we assume works pretty well and is external. There's a sales girl who does most of the work, the ticket, its price, currency, and so on. Nothing special, no services, nothing complicated, so it's safe to assume that the classes do what their names are. The first sin of software developers that I came across was the syndrome of I dare not touch the code of this divine developer. And this was expressed for real in things like that. So you can see this brownish, why like this? Yeah, so you can see this brownish highlighted code that IntelliJ indicates as smelly. Why does an object that was just instantiated gets checked for null? And this is the question that I asked from a senior developer at my previous workplace. And it turned out that no one changed this, although everyone was working around this code, because when you open the source code annotations, it was written by a local Latvian Java development guru, architect, a long time ago, and everyone just opened the annotation and said, no way could this guy have written something bad. So if it's there, then it's there for some reason, and if we take it out, then we will catch a null pointer for sure. So this has to stay. And it took me about 2 hours and talking to 3 developers and 1 team lead to persuade them that no, this was just some hangover or other situation. Things happened, the guy made a mistake, who knows what. So the power of authority of certain people is huge. You have to think with your head, you're smart. You don't have to think that you don't understand something. It becomes even worse if something was written by the same guy some time ago. So it's been around there for 3 years, and it doesn't matter that it's deprecated and that 3 lines out of 6 lines are deprecated. If it's there for 3 years, written by a development guru, don't touch it. It works. Never touch it. And another version of this is not person-based. It's more like, but it's also with a connotation. I do not dare touch this divine piece of untouchable code. It's usually distinguished by something like this. It might be package core or base module, main library, accounting, finance, or other scary word. As soon as some class ends up in core, then you get the, I will not do this, I will not touch the core. So here we have a ticket, and in its price method, we have the currency hard-coded for some reason, and it's hard-coded to Latvian lats, but as of 2014, Latvia is entering the Eurozone, so we will have Euro, so we have to change this, and everyone knows it's inevitable, but there's a developer who doesn't want to touch the core, God forbid. So what he does, he creates a beautiful workaround, and in performances, he alters the set ticket price method just a bit. So that's the official exchange rate between Lats and Euro of the Bank of Latvia. So we do this on one end, and for the calculations to be correct, of course, we do it on the other end as well. So convert from Lats and there, like the other way. So we have all the prices stored in Lats, but we convert them in Euro in the back end when setting prices and in the front end when selling them to customers. But to be fair, the developer is really responsible, so he adds a comment very meaningful. This is a dirty workaround. Fix me, please, but someone else. Someone who can touch the core. And I've done a bit of research around our code base, and it usually stays around for 4 or 5 years approximately, this fix me. So it's a dead common, it will never be fixed. And then something else happens. Since we have a new beautiful method with something hard-coded, then someone else working on another fragmented task changes the sign for some reason. So now we're converting from lats, but we're multiplying. I don't know why. And we're losing a lot of money because customers are happy. They will not complain. You will not get customer complaints. They're getting their tickets for half the price they're supposed to get. And at some point, the business sees financial reports and sees that we lost a whole lot of money. And it takes time to file a ticket, for the ticket to get to software development, and for someone to fix it. And then you work around the office and someone tells, oh yeah, I was working around in this code and I saw this and I thought it was some trouble, that we were losing money, but I wasn't working on this task, so I didn't tell anyone. Not my business, not my problem. But it does get fixed by someone whose problem it is, but someone who doesn't really care about what the problem is. The task he got was specified as a convert from lats method does not work correctly. So developers are lazy people in a good way, so what he does, he comments out the call to this method, because if it doesn't work correctly, it should not be called. So we do not convert from lats altogether. And this is also from real life. In the latest half year, I saw about, I don't know, maybe 100 fixes like that. When something doesn't work, it just gets commented out and everything's fine. Planet saved. And it's justified by, I don't know the details of how the system is supposed to work altogether. I don't care. I have a task in Jira. I can close it. Job well done. My statistics are up. Super fine. And I've actually heard project managers, the ones that are supposed to be extinct, but they exist in some companies, praise developers for closing 4 critical bugs in one iteration by creating 3 new ones. Because first of all, the 3 new ones are newer, so not that critical, and 4 bugs are closed, which is a great success story. Talk about messed up priorities. What's happening? I'm sorry. Yeah. Then comes in marketing, with the marketing as an internal customer with a great idea that we should gather some very useful information from customers before selling them tickets. So we should ask them 5 meaningful questions like, what's your favorite animal, what's your home address, and so on. Really meaningful. They cannot live without it. So we actually have to ask those questions before we sell the ticket to the client, and even before we check if we can sell the ticket to the client, if the show is suitable for this spectator. And we do this, and it's easily done. You just create 5 ugly calls to ask question, and we're happy because we did what marketing told us to do. Marketing, as all clients, know exactly what they want. But it's actually really bad that we did this, because marketing does not know the whole business process and does not have the tool to test this new scenario. But we have all the information within a couple of clicks in development environment. And we know that there is a special kind of spectator, Novy Ruski type, who has an interesting implementation of the buy ticket method. So if he gets asked too many questions and doesn't get a ticket in the end, which is what happens this time, then he's really unhappy and he kills all humans. And this is an epic fail. And what we have to do here, we have to go to the board or our supervisors and pull out the horrible card of, oh, I'm just a developer. I just did what they told me to do. And what happens is that marketing will have to take the blame for this. They will have to take responsibility. And from this moment on to marketing, you will be a stupid code monkey that marketing has to take responsibility for and clean up after. Another idea coming from customer service. Good idea. So they thought that they could warm up the audience before performances by giving them a drink. And this actually worked really fine because most of the spectators, when a call "have a drink" is made, are nice and they're being really nice. So this worked really well for comedy, where it was warm up audience and have a drink to all spectators. So they decided to do this for all kinds of performances, not only comedies. So developers quickly introduced a new horrible ugliness piece in software design and kicked this functionality up into the abstract class and only left the actual doing, I'm sorry. So they kicked up the drinking of spectators into an abstract warm-up performance and left the actual implementation of the show to the subclasses such as comedy and musical. And this worked really fine. So musical, the comedy does the same. But what we didn't think about constantly is that there's another method that's special to all the performances. The method that checks if this performance is suitable for a particular spectator. And here, spectator's age is supposed to be under 25, so Novy Ruski, for example, will not get in because obviously he's much older than 25. But there are also other kinds of performances, like musical, where the age limit is different, and Novy Ruski will get in. And you can guess what happens next. Novy Ruski has a different implementation of a have a drink method that we didn't think about. So instead of being nice, he just kills all humans. And thankfully, we had acceptance tests for that, so we caught this bug early, and this didn't go in production, but we have already set up the whole abstract class architecture thing, so we didn't want to postpone the release date and roll it back, so we decided to push it to production and add a beautiful check in the abstract class, so only warm up the audience with drinks if there are no people who get angry when they're drunk in the audience. And of course, after 2 months, everyone forgets about this Novy Ruski case, and a new developer comes to the company and asks, why do you have such a strange logic in the abstract class? What does this stand for? And here comes one of my favorite answers, the one that covers 90% of all questions in IT. That's just a universal phrase that is used to answer any question where A, you have to think or investigate or admit that there's something wrong with what you've done before and we have extra work to redo, or you have to just say, I don't know. And here comes the last one, my favorite. Obsession. There's a special kind of people obsessed with null pointers. They're just, some people see zombies everywhere, some people see null pointers everywhere. So every line of code has to be covered by a null pointer check. For example, here when we let the customers into the performance, we check one more time the age of the spectator and that it's not null, God forbid, because we might catch a null pointer somewhere down there. But if you think of it, how can the age of the spectator be null if we checked his age when selling the ticket? But when you try to explain something like that to a colleague obsessed by null pointers, you can get the most creative answers. Like one time I was trying to tell a colleague, why do you check for null pointers in 15 different places where this field cannot be null because it comes only from a non-nullable field in the database? And the answer I got just made my day for the rest of the year, I guess. The answer was, do you still trust in databases? I stopped trusting databases a long time ago. So don't trust the database, check for null pointers. And in the end, even if you do check for null pointers, why do you assume that if the age of the spectator turned up null because of, I don't know, some thread conflict, some extraordinary situation, then you should say that this performance is not suitable for that spectator and just kick him out. After all, why should the customer take blame for some exceptional situation? And instead of throwing an exception to know that this should be handled manually, maybe with a little more work, you just kick the person out. Yeah, if you don't trust the database, check for null. So this creates a bit of a chaos, but there are 9 steps that are pretty obvious, and please don't throw things at me from repeating this over and over again, and 7 questions that you should ask every day, not to let such situation happen, and to enforce your self-discipline and good culture among your colleagues. First of all, know your business. Know what value you're creating. This was talked about for an hour and a half before me, but I cannot agree more. If you don't know your business, then learn your business. If you're in insurance, read about insurance. If you're in ballet, learn about ballet. If you don't know something, then find out, don't guess. No one doubts that you're uber smart professionals, not code monkeys. But be honest with yourself. It's better to have true information than to just guess and hope that you're lucky. Propose. You're smart and you might have a better solution than marketing, customer service, or even your upper management has. But you should not keep it to yourself. Be active. Take responsibility. And forget the I'm just a developer and I just did my task and I just did what I was supposed to do forever. You're not a slave. You're there to use your head to bring value. Say no where it's possible. Don't say no automatically, but don't try to please everyone. Don't be yes man. Share ideas. So being a lazy developer in a good way and just doing things you're told to do in the most effective way is a good thing, but innovation should come from you. Question everything. Question authority where it's possible. Don't get fired, please. Question the dogmatic answers that most experienced colleagues give you. Question sometimes what you hear in conferences. Question what you read in articles and even in the books. Don't forget that you're still a developer and you're responsible for the overall code quality. You're not only responsible for delivering features and value, you have to keep your code clean and accordingly refactor, and refactor all the time. Even if you have to say no to deadlines, and question the authority of managers, and share your ideas about other time estimates. And here are the questions you should ask. Even according to lean methodology that Toyota follows and many other companies follow, you should ask the question why as many times as it gets to get the answer that just comes naturally to you, so that you cannot ask another why. Always ask, are you sure? Because people tend to blurt out something just like that and think about it only after it's said out loud. When something is requested, ask if you should really do this, if this is really necessary. This is important from both the business perspective and technical perspective. Always ask if there is maybe a better way. If you're not able to propose a better way yourself at once, then try to collaborate with the person that you're working currently to try to find another way, a better way right away. This is another way of saying question authority. When you're told you should do this by some deadline, or you should do it like this, and no explanations are given on why it is like that, then at least ask for who decided this. And if someone tries to scare you into strict deadlines and very hard requirements, and tell you that if you don't do this then and in this way, then the world will end, always ask what the worst thing is that can happen if you don't do this. Because this question usually leads people to just back off, because nothing bad will happen. And always, 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 after completing a task, don't assume that it's done. Always ask your client, even if it's an internal client like another department, your project manager, your team lead, your team as a whole, if you got it right, if the work can be considered done. Because it's not done, at least it's accepted by the end user. So some minor steps that help us limit the monkey chaos that I hope you will find useful. To summarize, I really believe that if we try a bit harder, then each developer has the potential in them to be one of those astronauts taking the rocket ship to the orbit. After all, software development is meant to bring things forward, to eliminate duplicate work, to give companies their competitive advantage. But it takes a whole lot of discipline, and it's not easy to follow the rules of not being a code monkey every day. But it's either that, or you will be continued to call nerd alerts all the time. And we don't want that, do we? So, thank you.
As there is no time for questions, please feel free to talk with Alla during the breaks, and we also have a small gift for you.
Thank you.
So now you can be here or change the hall.